So how to counter summer slowdown. Number one, today we have a very special guest, content creator on YouTube. She's also a full-time reseller. I'll let her introduce herself. Your name, please.
Yeah, I'm Joelle, Closet by Joelle on all my platforms. And yeah, reseller, content creator, just kind of trying to navigate the reselling world.
Yeah, as we all are. And
Yeah.
so what platforms are you mainly selling on, Joelle?
Poshmark is my main bread and butter. And then eBay and Mercari, definitely the two next best performing. And then kind of dabbled in Depop, Curtsy, a lot of those smaller platforms and put a little bit of time in them, but definitely wouldn't consider myself much of an expert in those two.
Oh, so how are you liking Curtsy? I hear a lot of things about it.
I wasn't a big fan of it at first, but they added, I want to say a few months ago, where you can automatically import your Poshmark listings to Curtsy. And
Right.
so that's kind of just been outlet getting back into it because I really don't have to put a lot of effort into it. I kind of just import them and see if I can make some sales on there. So a little bit more of a fan of it these days.
Right. Do you see an uptick of sales on there the longer that you've been on there?
A little bit, yeah. It kind of takes a little bit to get the floodgates moving, but yeah, I think for sure they definitely, I would say, reward sellers that get a little bit more, but seems to be a little bit more of a like closet clear out platform. I think they kind
Ah,
of amplify people who aren't resellers as much, like just people who are trying to sell their stuff for really cheap. So
gotcha. It's like
yeah,
yeah, okay. Okay, I see. Are you doing any sort of live selling right now?
I did a little bit and I've kind of thought about getting back into it. I haven't done much on Poshmark, but whatnot. About this time last year, I was pretty consistent with it and it was making me a good income, but the inventory was kind of hard to keep up with because I was just selling so many more pieces at once rather than my Poshmark where I was just making maybe a couple sales a day. And so I kind of took a break just because income wise, it was tough to keep up with. But I've thought about getting back into it, maybe just doing a sale like once a week or maybe a couple times a month.
Wow, okay. So like if someone wanted to get started with whatnot, there is a approval process still,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Did it take you very long to get approved?
Not really. I got really lucky. I wasn't like part of the first stage of people that got approved, but I was a part of that kind of second tier. And so I want to say about a month after that was when it really kicked off. And so it was tough for even resellers to get on there. But I think now it's kind of the hype has died down a little bit. And
Right.
so for approval, I've seen the best part if you're trying to get into it is just to really find any reseller. I mean, there's plenty of resellers, big and small, that put their invite code on there. And so you can get that approval. I think pretty much now, I think if you have one of those referrals, which is pretty easy to come by these days, that you're going to get approved within a couple weeks.
I notice also if you are selling on another platform, I think they would take you faster if you can show that, you have experience and
Yeah, they
whatever.
definitely reward it because I know like you had to basically prove how much inventory you had and like
Hmm.
what platforms you sell on. So yeah, I mean, I had to kind of show them what I was doing on Poshmark to basically prove that I had basically I guess the means to sell on there. So
Yeah, a lot of people are on there now. A lot of people, but it
yeah,
is a lot of work doing live selling. It is a lot of work. It takes a lot out of you.
it is a lot. Yeah, that was a big part of just kind of picking my battles of would I rather put the effort into making less sales but more valuable sales on Poshmark
Mm.
or making like more of a high volume selling on whatnot. So yeah, definitely a good business model if you kind of work that way. I don't. I can't sit and like package up 10, 20, 30 items a day, but it works and it's definitely good money for people that kind of have that business model.
Yeah, I guess it depends on where you source too. You could just pull pallets all day.
Right.
That's what a lot
Yeah,
of
people
people are
go to the
doing.
bins and they
Hmm.
just sell it. I mean, same day. It's crazy. So,
Right. Do you dabble in
yeah.
any sort of like liquidation pallets, anything like that, or you just strictly, thrift store finds and
I'm actually so my fiance and I he kind of dabbles into reselling too. He doesn't do women's clothing like I do, but
right.
we've looked at some liquidation and we're kind of planning on saving up some money and maybe by the end of the year, just getting the occasional pallet. It won't be like our whole business model, but I mean, we would definitely like to try one out and just kind of see what happens with it. So,
That's cool. That's cool that
yeah.
he's getting involved with that. Are you guys so you're full time with it, right?
Yeah, pretty. Yeah, you kind of caught me like in the middle of a business model shift, and so yeah, I was full time, and now I'm working part time just at a buy sell trade store, which is very, I mean, beneficial for me as a reseller, just getting
Yeah.
inventory and getting experience because I'm essentially working at a resale store, and so that's been pretty cool. But I'm just kind of using it to build up experience and build up some income so that I can get back into a like new full-time business model. So
That's cool. And
yeah.
just diving into the entire industry that
Yeah,
way.
it's really interesting because yeah, I found like it's owned by the same company as Plato's Closet. And so I mean, yeah, it's a big business model and I've learned a lot about I mean what people are really looking for and what prices people are willing to pay and kind of what brands are in and what brands are out. So it's really cool.
Like if you're gonna do it all the way and even get a
Yeah.
part-time job in the industry. It's
Yeah.
kind of smart. It is kind of smart. I mean, I give you props for that. That's a really
Thank you.
great idea. So
Yeah.
your husband, does he work a part-time job too or a full-time job and he just kind of part-time helps you?
Yeah, he works full time. It's pretty flexible though, and so yeah, he actually like kind of drives around Missouri for some sales, and so yeah, we're kind of able to travel together a little bit. And the plan is when I'm full time, and we actually have a baby on the way too, so that's kind of
Oh,
why.
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, that kind of inspired me to shift my business model to instead of doing more high volume selling to doing more like high profit sales and maybe making less sales but still more money. And so yeah, the plan is to I mean, travel around, go to different thrift stores, find new places to source. So
You've learned through the years how to handle the stress of and the pressure of going full-time because you're essentially on your own now and you're supporting yourself that way.
yeah,
It is
it was a
stressful.
big shift. Yeah, definitely stressful. And I found honestly it's been not I don't want to say easy to shift, but like it's been really relatable because in the reselling world, there's a lot of changes that get made. Like you kind of have to adapt to new things like live selling or Poshmark makes lots of updates where we had to change. And so I kind of found that like just making different systems to manage my stress has been good. And so I went from um just I mean with my high volume selling, my schedule looked completely different. But now just managing my stress, I have found that doing kind of like batch work has been a really good model, and I would recommend it for really any reseller getting into it or anyone who's been reselling for a while. So I love to do all of my sourcing in one day, all of my photographing in one day, measurements, making drafts. Like I like to kind of spread it out and just do kind of like 1 to 2 small tasks a day over a few hours. So I found that that's been the best way to manage my stress and still make sure that I'm getting work done.
That's a great idea. Yeah, do everything in one day, and then actually it could free you up, give you a lot of extra free time by the end of the week if you're doing everything at the beginning of the week too.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, it definitely allows, yeah, just room for like, because I think the difference, like with being full time or part time, is that versus like a side hustle or a hobby, it's like it's your job. And so that's the income that you really require. And so it's like you can't just put it in the back burner and take a break. Like when I've been shifting my business model, I've been making sure to still be making money reselling. Like I can't just stop it because it's a big source of our income. And so, yeah, it's been a good way where if I need to take a day off, it doesn't affect me as much because I have 6 more days in the week to do my batch work. So
right. Especially now you have a baby on the way,
yeah.
and so you're gonna need as much free time as you possibly can. So
Yes.
condense all that work in the beginning of the week, and that should give you a pretty good amount of days off once you have all the systems figured out.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that was the goal since we knew that we wanted kids soon. And so yeah, now we're just seeing it actually we're actually putting the work in and actually seeing it happen. So yeah, we're very excited for it.
yeah, you can have a little tiny reseller
I
on your
know.
hands soon.
Pretty soon he'll be shipping for us and
Yep, yep, there you go.
helping us find things.
We couldn't find any employees, so we made one.
Yeah. It's the best way to do
That's
it.
great. Have there been any times in your journey where you felt like giving up or it was too much for you?
Um, Giving up altogether, no, but definitely like the burnout is very real. I think especially like I said, where if you're full time or part time, you can't just put it aside and forget about it and take a break. And so burnout definitely is real. But I think before I kind of started shifting my model, like that's when I was really feeling it and I wasn't as passionate about reselling and it wasn't really fun for me anymore. Just doing the high volume selling and spending I mean, hours a day packaging up items for whatnot sales. And these are sales that are only making me $5 to $10 profit per piece. And so, I mean, the money was there and it was making me a good income, but it was just so much work. And, we don't have employees, like we don't plan on having employees or
Yeah.
anything. And so it just, I mean, yeah, it was just a lot of work. And Poshmark was the same. I mean, I had over, I think, 500 active listings and the sales were there, but it was just a lot of work and a lot of upkeep. And I kind of realized that when I wasn't as like passionate about doing it, that was when I was kind of feeling the burnout and I realized that needed to make a shift. So
Yeah, because the thing is, you know you're passionate about it. It's just it's masked by all the stress, and especially if you don't have a system in place or you're not
mhm.
organized, it could make it seem like it's just a job and it's not, and it's an obligation and it's not something that you're
Yeah.
passionate about, like you said. Yeah, so how you would how you handled that was changing up the way you do things, condensing your work week into just a few days,
Mhm.
doing everything on separate days, and then freeing yourself up for the rest of the week so that you can sort of clear your mind and have a little bit of a break and a breather. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it because there's a lot of people out there that, they're frustrated. They don't know what to do at this point, especially when sales die and summer
Mhm.
slowdown or there's holidays. People start panicking, and
Yeah.
there's options out there. There's other things that you could do to help yourself, and people need to be aware of that. And they're just not, because they just don't know or they haven't been through it before. So
Yeah.
it's good that you explained that. Exactly inspires you to keep going? I know, well, especially now you're gonna have a family, right? Is
Yeah.
there anything else that inspires you to keep going?
Like I could very easily say my family, and like now that we have a baby on the way, we're due in September, and so we're over halfway through, and like it's just like, I mean, the answer of my family motivating me is so much bigger now. And so
Right.
I mean, yeah,
Right.
I'm just thinking about, even like with being a content creator, like I have income on YouTube, but it's very, very minimal. Like when you're a small
It's tough.
YouTuber, the income isn't definitely isn't paying your bills. But just thinking about like the future of, I mean, having your own income, having your own business, essentially reselling, and like that, it's an investment for not just my future, but like our kids' future, and that
Right.
our reselling income and YouTube income, it's not just gonna pay our mortgage, but it's gonna pay for tuition and sports and clubs and just passions that our kids can get involved in. So
Yeah.
it's definitely like I mean, yeah, we've always wanted to be self sufficient and self employed, and so it's just, yeah, kind of having a kid on the way just puts it all into perspective that it's definitely something that we want to do. So yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely my biggest motivation.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever thought about offering some sort of mentorship or on how to deal with like the reselling life and get through those hard times? Like a lot of people, they need mentors. There's
Yeah.
not enough of them. Have you ever
Yeah,
thought about
not
doing that?
much. Yeah, not much till recently. I'm a big fan and advocate of free information though, and so
Yes.
I want to like, I've also, as I've been shifting things, reselling, I've been shifting my YouTube channel, and so I want to keep. I don't want people to have to like pay for a mentorship or
Right.
anything with me.
Right.
Like I would much rather have it be like a YouTube series where everybody can, access that. And so I definitely want to start with my content creation, doing different series with different topics, and so something like that for managing stress or shifting your model, like that would be
Right.
something that I would love to do a series for. And then other things like the buy sell trade industry, or just, I mean,
Yeah.
just any type of reselling content. So I
Now
think
that,
that'd be a
yeah.
really cool thing to do.
Now that you have that part-time job at that place, you'll have a ton of more options now for content and
Yeah.
information. That's really cool. That is really
Yeah.
cool. So I'm guessing you'll be able to source at that place that you're working now.
Yeah, it actually, that inspired me the most to kind of shift my model and make me realize that it's possible. Because I mean, before, with the places I was sourcing at, like I was finding a lot of bread and butter brands that were making me maybe like $15 to $20 profit per item, and I'd find the occasional gem. But I mean, sourcing here, you might be paying a couple more dollars per item, but I mean, my average sales price has gone up drastically so far. So I'm starting to make 25, 35, $40 per item just with items that I'm paying $5 for instead of $2 for at Goodwill. So it's been, yeah, I think that's been the biggest part. And it's made me realize that paying a little bit up for items can be a huge difference in your business with, profit per item. So
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I think I explained this in one of my other interviews where if you're shopping at a dollar store, I mean, you're getting essentially what you pay for. Things break the
mm-hmm.
next day. So, obviously the more value that are on the items, the more they're going to sell for, the more people think, in their brains that, hey, this costs a little more. So,
Yeah.
it's just more quality for me.
Yeah, for sure.
So how often are you sourcing now?
So kind of depends. I have my Goodwill. There's still some really good Goodwills around me. I'm thankful to have like 4 or 5 locations around me, and so I plan on doing that, getting back into that weekly. They have $1.79 days on Wednesdays for me, so that will bring in, I'd say, the majority of my inventory. And then in terms of, I mean, sourcing at my store, that's kind of just whenever I find anything. And they have big sales 4 times a year. And so that's like the 90% clearance. And that's where I find, I mean, I'll pick
Oh,
up
that's great.
35 to 40 items per trip. And so those are like my top dollar items that are going to make me, I mean, some really, really good profit. So yeah, I'd say for sure weekly sourcing every Wednesday for me. And then places like Plato's Closet, other buy sell trade stores, like I definitely utilize their clearance sales. So those will come around probably like once a month on average, and I'm
Yeah.
able to pull in more, definitely like larger volumes of items.
So your only focus right now is women's clothes. Do you sell in any other category?
I kind of dabble in men's clothes, but I'm not a definitely not as
Right.
knowledgeable in the with brands that sell and everything. But I've had some success with men's clothes though. But yeah, I'd say women's is 90% of my inventory.
That's great. And through the years, you've learned about brands through product research, or you just came to you after a while. It's just experience.
A little bit of both. So I think experience was probably how I found out brands that didn't sell well for me, which I'm thankful for. And that's something that I like to highlight a lot, is not just what brands sell good, but what brands are just not really it anymore. And so, but no,
Right.
I think the buy sell trade stores really, really helped, because there's some brands that I wouldn't have even thought about picking up that I found out, they might not make a huge profit, but they're definitely brands that people love to look for and they love to find secondhand. And so, there's some good ones out there. Other than that, though, I kind of just keep up with resellers on YouTube. That's been a big way for me to just see, just again, brands that I would never think about. So I
Right.
love just having YouTube on in the background and watching different resellers and kind of figuring out what's selling for them. And it's a lot of trial and error, but I mean, that's just kind of
It
part of
is what it
reselling.
is.
So
That's the industry, trial and error. And
yeah.
and you discuss a lot of these brands on your YouTube channel anyway,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
people can learn directly from you. So that's great.
Yeah, no,
What's
that's
working for
definitely
you.
something that I think that that's probably one of the most valuable things that you can put out on YouTube for resellers to look for. So, yeah, when I
Right.
started, that was one of the biggest things that I wanted to make sure I was putting out for people too, whether it was brands that don't sell well for me or my best selling brands. So,
Absolutely. People need to just take it into their own hands. If they want to learn, look, get on YouTube. There's a ton of free information
mm-hmm.
on there. There's a ton of
Free
people,
information.
yeah, a ton of great people on there that want to actually genuinely help people. Because a lot of people they either blame the tools they use, or
Mm-hmm.
they blame their situation or anything, but they don't take accountability where, hey, I need to help myself here, give myself more knowledge, and start learning on my own. No one else
Yeah.
is going to teach me. I have to do
Yeah.
it myself. So
Agreed.
with that, I think we touched on what platforms you're mainly on, Curtsy, whatnot. Poshmark, do you sell on eBay? I'm not sure if you mentioned eBay.
I do, yeah. I It's still a learning curve for me. I know
Yeah.
that it's like, I mean, I think it's definitely worth it to sell, because it's, I think, still the biggest resale market out there, for
Hmm.
virtually any category. So yeah, I found that I make good sales on there. Whenever I do make a sale, it's typically a higher dollar item. They just don't come as frequent as Poshmark does. But
Right.
I mean, I also know though that once you get your feedback up, once you get your reviews there, that they definitely favor their active sellers. So I'm just,
Yes.
yeah, sticking with it, cross listing there every single day and making sure that I just keep up with it, and I know that it will pay off. So
It will. Will consistency is the key.
yes.
How many items do you cross list per day? Just curious.
Right now 5 items per day. But I definitely, I mean, I've been working on consolidating my inventory for probably the past 3 or 4 months. So I've gone from, like I said earlier, over 500 listings, and then I had a lot more listings on eBay, but now I only have about 150 active listings. And so
Okay.
yeah, so right now 5 per day, but it'll kind of shift with when I start getting more inventory in, then I'll make sure to cross list all of that the same day that I
Right.
list on Poshmark. So
That's great. We're
yeah,
actually, I think we're merging our softwares, Posh Sidekick and cross listing is going to be merged into
yeah.
just Sidekick. So
No,
you'll be
I'm
able to do
excited for
everything.
that.
Yeah, from one
Yeah,
app.
yeah, because I've tried out different cross, and Posh Sidekick has been the one that, I mean, I've switched so many different softwares, and Posh Sidekick has been my constant. And then yeah, cross listing I actually recently signed up for, so I was very excited to hear about the merger.
Yeah, it's gonna be huge. Joelle, I have a question for you. What is
Mhm.
your biggest reselling pet peeve? What just irks you, either about the industry or reselling in general?
Ooh, I would have to say. I was thinking summer slowdown probably, which
Mm,
we're getting right into that right now. It's just, I mean, it shows up inevitably in all of retail. And so it's something that we unfortunately have to deal with too. And so it's just, it sucks because you can't make excuses and you can't just stop, especially like, if it's your job. And so just having to adapt. And I feel like every summer you kind of have to make even changes to those changes that you made. And so
yeah.
I remember making a video last summer about how to conquer summer slowdown. And looking at that video now, it's like, shoot, now I have to come up with new methods to conquer summer slowdown this year because there's just constantly changes to the reselling industry and it's part of it. And so I want to make sure that people know that, like, you have to adapt to it if you want to stick with reselling, but it's annoying. That doesn't take away from the fact that it really does suck. So
Yeah, that's a big one. What are some of the things that you do to kind of counter summer slowdown?
So I like to make an effort to kind of humble myself with my sales. I found that I accept a lot more offers during summer slowdown, just because a sale is a sale. And so if it's an item that I wanted to make $40 on and I can only make 30, I take that as a win because that's better than nothing, especially when the sales aren't coming as often. And then another thing that I was thankful to utilize the past few months and that I'll still do this summer is selling to buy sell trade stores. And that's something that I learned from working at my store with kind of seeing what the payouts are and how much you can make per item. Which this, I mean, unfortunately doesn't apply to everyone because you have to make sure that you're sourcing items low enough to
Right.
make sure that you're making money. But I mean, I have found that, if you're paying $2 or less per item, that you can virtually double your profit on every single item that you sell there. So that is something
That
that
is a
I have
great
found.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah, if I don't make a sale for a couple of days and I'm not making as much money as I planned on that month, then I can take 30 or 40 items to a buy sell trade store and kind of counter that. And, it might be items that I wanted to make more on. But again, it's like if it's a piece that I know I'll find again in the thrift store, then I'm willing to sell it to a buy sell trade store and get a few couple of bucks and
Right.
make some extra profit because it does add up. So
So how to counter summer slowdown? Number one, buy some more inventory,
yeah.
slash the prices a little bit, right? Slash the prices a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, accept a little bit of lower offers, especially if you're getting your cost of goods really low.
Yeah.
Number two, try to sell to buy, sell trade stores if you're getting your inventory at a decent price of what you're
Yeah.
doing. That's a
Yeah.
great idea.
And I
Yeah.
found too, like, I mean, at least from working there, like that you can ask them questions and you can get your prices and everything. I mean, which this is for the bigger ones like Plato's Closet, Clothes Mentor. But you definitely kind of find out again, it's like trial and error. So you can find out what brands maybe sell better. Like there's a couple brands that I sell specifically to these stores because I know that they're going to pay me out a pretty decent profit and they might be brands that don't sell well for me. So I think, yeah, it's definitely a cool thing to utilize, especially if you get familiar with the store and with the workers, and it can definitely be worth it.
That was a gangster tip right there, guys.
Thank
That
you.
was pretty G, I gotta
Yes, I want
say.
to make sure I'm giving this information out now that I have it. So,
So if you weren't reselling, what would you be doing?
man, I
It's a
couldn't
tough
tell
one.
you.
I
I
know it's a
mean,
tough
like,
one.
yeah, like my partner and I were very like entrepreneur minded, and so I want to think I would be doing some other type of side hustle, whatever that would be. Which I mean, for me, I think it would just be a side hustle, and I'd probably just have a standard job because, like reselling is something that's not just like a job, but it's fun for me. And so, I mean, yeah, if I think about, I mean, yeah, just something that would make me money on the side, it would be something that I wasn't very passionate about. So I'd probably just end up having a 9 to 5 job, which is something that just hasn't really interested me in the past few years.
No,
So
that's why we do this, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't work for anyone.
yeah,
I have to do things. I mean, some people don't have a choice, but
yeah,
you know, eventually I gave myself that choice. I worked hard and gave myself that choice. So I was able
yeah,
to work for myself essentially. But
hmm,
it does take work to get there. But once you're there, it's very rewarding. It really
yeah,
is.
yeah, and yeah, I can't even think about going back to
Yeah.
what life could look like, without this. I mean, yeah, it's definitely yeah, like you said, once you get there, it's worth it.
It's worth it, and anyone
Yeah.
could do it. Anyone can do it, no matter
Hmm.
their situation. There is a way to do it, and
Yeah.
if people like me and you can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah,
We're
for
all
sure.
humans. We're all equal, so it's not impossible.
Hmm.
And there's one more question that I do have for you. We had a great interview, but if you have any tips that you would give anyone who's struggling right now, especially with summer slowdown and the holidays, and a lot of people feel probably frustrated and disheartened to
Hmm.
keep going. Is Are there any tips that you would want to give anyone who's struggling right now?
Yeah, more of a, I guess, kind of abstract one. I think just like put yourself like into the reselling community. I mean, I think
Hmm.
YouTube's a big one, because you'll kind of see that people are all like, we all deal with summer slowdown and we all experience it differently, but something that we all have to deal with. And so I think just having the comfort of knowing that, other people around you are struggling with the same thing, that's huge. And so, I mean, I think that utilizing YouTube, for that, and then for, I mean, just tips and tricks to reselling, like that is a big thing. Like I would say utilize as much free information as possible because there's so much out there. And I think it's a great way to just grow and learn in your reselling business. And yeah, I mean, there's
Absolutely.
just so much out there. Big and small YouTube creators have so much stuff to give. So
You don't need to buy courses. You don't need to
you do
spend
not.
money. You could do it all on your own, especially if you're like you said, surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded and are winning and are
Hmm.
making sales and are successful. That will rub off on you. So it's very
Yeah,
important to network.
for sure.
Do that on you, like you said, YouTube. There's Discords for reselling. There's Facebook groups. Just
Yeah,
anywhere that you could go that they're the same like-minded people, you should go because it's going to just enhance your experience.
yeah,
So,
for sure.
but Joelle, this has been awesome. I'm gonna put all your links in the description of the video, and we'll get everybody to your channel because I think you have a lot of value, and I really enjoyed this. So thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of Posh Sidekick. You guys have been a huge part of my business. I hope that I mentioned that at some point during this interview because y'all have been amazing. So I really appreciate you having me.
Oh, definitely, and thank you so much. And we'll check back in with you in a couple months, and especially after the baby comes, we'll definitely
Yeah.
check in with you again and see how you're doing. So we're
Yeah,
excited.
for sure. Things will look different. So I'm very
Yeah.
excited.
So congrats. And yeah, we'll be hearing from you. Thank you so
Cool.
much.
Thank you.